Over the last few weeks, we've talked about the trial of Jesus, the mocking of Jesus, the crucifixion of Jesus. And today, we're going to talk about his death. Hello and welcome to the Midweek Move, podcast extension of the Healing Places, the podcast where we examine scriptures line by line, verse by verse, and ask ourselves what is happening here. And today, ladies and gentlemen, joining me is Carlos Renfroe. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, brother. How you feeling?
I am feeling okay. We are getting to the end of this journey.
Yep. We're right in the middle of it.
Man, for those of you who are just now joining, maybe you just found us for the first time, we've been going through the book of Mark.
Yep.
And we are in chapter 15 of Mark. And as I mentioned, we're talking about the death of Jesus. And so it's been a rather, I would say, bleakish couple episodes, but hopefully that as you guys have listened, you found some encouragement, some challenge to it. We would love to have feedback from you guys on what's taking place here, how's encouraged you, challenged you, all that stuff. Reach out to us, mediahub@thpshreport.com. But Carlos, we are about to dive into what I would say is the peak of the drama, and this is the moment where it all gets real. It's interesting. We're at this point, and for us in real time, it's Christmas time. We're like 3 weeks away from Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus.
Right.
And I was doing a devotion the other day, and I was talking about the word Advent means coming. The coming of, they're expecting the arrival. And we have the second advent of Jesus, which is the second coming of Jesus that we're looking forward to. But this is the purpose. Him coming to earth as in the form of a child was to come to this moment here for our sake. Yep. And so this has been a rather intense reading for me this time around for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. It's just been a little more intense for me.
I think maybe it's just the building.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when you read it all in large chunks, you read it all in almost in this narrative form. Mm-hmm. You know, certain things kind of fly past you. Sometimes with this style that we've been doing here on the podcast, it's like a building. You're stopping to reflect. Right. You're absorbing what's happening, and one thing builds on the next. So you really kind of get the gravity of what's happening.
Exactly. Well, let's see how things play out here, ladies and gentlemen. Verse 33, Carlos.
Verse 33 out of the ESV.
Yep.
And when the 6th hour had come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour.
Okay. So we aren't entirely sure what caused this darkness to take place. It could have been dark clouds had filled the air. Some speculate it could have been what's called, and I've never heard this word before, a black sirocco. I thought that was a car, and so did Google. But as I read, figured out what it was.
As opposed to a green sirocco?
Right. It's a term for an intense sandstorm that was not uncommon in that area. In either case, the synoptic writers make it clear that this darkening of the sky had been a supernatural event. It was significant, as if the earth itself was crying out over what was taking place.
Yeah.
And again, if you haven't been watching or listening, we're at the end of Jesus' earthly ministry right now.
This is apex.
It's interesting, when you say crucifixion of Jesus, we automatically think about there's the death.
Yeah.
But when as I've been studying everything, they really delineate between the crucifixion and the death.
Yeah.
The crucifixion was the process.
Right. There's so much that's happening there. Not just if this isn't a normal means of execution. This isn't a lethal injection. You go in there, you say whatever you say.
Right.
You run the process and then it's over.
Right.
There's so much happening when it comes to crucifixion as a means to death.
Exactly. Crucifixion can last for days.
Yeah.
And so here's this dark moment, and now the skies are just black as all get out.
Yep.
It's dark, again, as if the earth itself was crying out over this.
Right.
So now that being said, we know that from the last week's discussion that Jesus was crucified or nailed to the cross at 9 a.m. Here we see that the sky is darkened at noon.
Yep.
And Jesus' death was at 3 p.m. Shortly, we're going to get into Jesus' exact words, but what do you suppose the mental and physical state of Jesus was, or would have been on the cross for 6 hours?
physical state, he's hanging on by a thread. I mean,
Man,
considering everything he's gone through when it comes to the process, and we talked about the mocking process. It was combined with his beating and all sorts of human torture that would have made crucifixion even worse than it already was.
yeah,
And so um, his physical state is about as bad as it can get outside of death.
yeah,
And so you got to wonder if his mental state is now being drugged down by that physical state.
exactly.
And maybe that, like we talk about the spiritual allegory of the earth being darkened, and maybe this is a reflection of what's going on in the
Right.
spirit world, of what's going on with the Son of God, as he's completing this process of the plan of the Father. And the Bible talks about it. It talks about this. Go read in Philippians 2, about us having the mind of Christ, but the mind of Christ being equal to Jesus, not being afraid to make himself obedient to the death of the cross. That on that cross, his heart and his mindset was to complete the will of the Father.
Right.
Was to finish what the Father had sent him to do, and that meant becoming obedient to death.
Exactly. And I want to put this up there one more. We talked about this last week. There's a whole conversation about them offering Jesus up some wine mixed with myrrh. That was a kindness that some people would show to prisoners to basically deaden the nerves, to make the process of this hurt are less like make it less for them, basically.
Less agonizing.
Jesus denied it. In real time, he is full consciousness, suffering up there for 6 hours with this. And so, again, why are we going into detail about this? Because, again, we talked about this before. We need to put ourselves in the mind of Christ, as you were saying.
It matters.
We need to understand what's taking place in the scriptures and try. When we read it, it's a casual thing. Guys, when I'm not going on a soapbox, but we have desensitized ourselves in culture,
Right.
and we've got to the point where we're like, oh, this happened, and we ignore it.
Right. It's not just a story. And in the world we live, where in the age of cinematic effects and CGI and things like that, it feels like we've seen just about everything possible.
Right.
And what happens is understanding the reality of what the Son of God went through for the sins of the earth.
Right.
It becomes just another storyboard in the backdrop of our mind, and we really have to bring ourselves to the grasp of the reality of it. This isn't something that an author and a director came up with. This is something that happened in history in real time.
Right.
And it was something that was reflective of the plan of God in heaven.
Exactly. All right, let's continue on, guys. Verse 34.
Verse 34, I get to practice my ancient Semitic languages.
That's why I have you reading it.
And in the ninth hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice. He said, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?
All right, so here we see Jesus cry in agony. This expression, this was interesting. I remember when I studying this, realized it years ago when I was a young man. This is the first time I understood the concept of scriptures going back to the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And this goes back to Psalm 22, verse 1. And again, as a teenager, when I first realized that, I thought I had just discovered the Holy Grail. I'm like, man, I'm Indiana Jones. I'm figuring out mysteries. It was cool. But it is interesting. And Psalm 22, verse 1, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me from the words of my groanings? And this is a expression of David, which in of itself carries some interesting implications, because here's Jesus, the Son of God, but he's in the lineage of David. He is the King of Israel, and he's quoting the words of King David also here. Now, scholars have pointed out that the great agony that Jesus is experiencing was not the pain of the crucifixion, but the pain of being separated from his Father. What separated him was not his own doing, but rather the fact that he bore the sin of all of us for our sake. As Paul put it in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21, for our sake he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. Now, what's truly interesting is that if you continue the words of David in Psalm 22, and this was interesting when I went back and kind of reread things, while he's crying out about being separated from God, David says this in verse 3, yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. And he goes on to declare how even though he's suffering, he's going to trust in God's plan. In the same way, while Jesus was suffering greatly, while he's experiencing the worst, most vicious invention of execution in the world, he was going to put his trust in God the Father, no matter what was taking place. So my question for you, Carlos, it's hard to have the mindset when you're going through hard times, that mindset of I'm going to trust God no matter what. What are some practical advice you can give to people who maybe they're going through a time of seasoning or a time of suffering, but they're walking God's plan. They know that God's given them something, and we've talked about before. Sometimes just because you're doing what God's called you to do doesn't mean it's easy.
Right.
You might have to suffer in the process. What's the advice you can give to people who are going through that?
Man, I think it's also something that we talked about before, even in this whole process. Talking about Jesus going through Mark it's the things that happen before you're in the hard time. Doesn't the time in the garden with the Father in the Gethsemane seem a lot more important now?
Right. Yeah.
As he's in a place where his flesh and his human side doesn't want to go through with crucifixion. I mean, why would he?
Right.
Doesn't want to go through this, but his spirit, he knows that this is the will of the Father. He's able to get along with the Father. He's able to draw strength from his relationship with the Father, and able to get through what the Lord wants him to get through. And so that's the first thing I can think of when we're talking about enduring suffering is you've got to be able to get yourself into a place and get into a relational strengthening moment with God the Father, so that you're ready for what's before you.
Right.
And you got to know what he said. You got to know what he said in his word. You got to know what his promises are.
Exactly.
You got to have those reference points, those stones of remembrance of how good God has always been throughout time and throughout ages, so that you're ready for when these things are in front of you. You have something, you have pillars, you have something to reach out and grab onto.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm glad you pointed out the aspect of the illusion of the stones of remembrance. This is the obvious allusion to the Old Testament. Israelites crossed the river. They made up these stones of memorial. Not for them to go like, look, we're always here. But it was like when life is hard, we can go back to that moment and remind ourselves. I'll encourage you guys, you create like these things in your life. And that takes you being time. And I'm going to put this out there. I'm a big tech guy. You're a big tech guy.
I am.
I love having technology. I use Logos Bible study software. Logos, hit us up if you want to sponsor us. But I love having a physical Bible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because my physical Bible becomes that in so many ways. Because I remember where things are in the scriptures. Yeah. Because I'm holding it. You can't. It's harder to do that with digital devices.
We used to have the speed flip competitions.
Oh yeah.
Somebody throw out the verse. You see who can get there the fastest. Who knew the thickness of their Bible the best.
Exactly. So I want to encourage you guys. Like, if you're not used to using a physical Bible, get one of those. Really. And if you want some suggestions on Bibles, let us know. We're happy to throw out some suggestions to you guys later. But that's one way of doing it.
Tools of intimacy.
Yeah. Take notes in it, whatever you need to do. I have several Bibles, but there's only a few I study out regular. I'm kicking myself because I lost my first Bible I ever studied. It was I got it. It was an NIV Bible I got from the FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I was 16 years old. And I remember I had it. I took a bunch of notes in it. It was held together by duct tape. And
a lot of warfare on that one.
It did, man. And I was in college. I transitioned to a different Bible that I have still. I love it. I transitioned a lot of my notes over to it. But one day I was in college. I went to go to a friend's church for church that morning, and I took that Bible just for the heck of it. And I left it there at the church, and it disappeared. So whoever has that, bless you.
Whoever has that, if you're watching this podcast, you have Dallas's Bible with duct tape on it and notes all over the place. We hope the Lord has richly blessed you with that Bible.
It's yellow, has FCA in the middle. Be blessed. But seriously, like that Bible I can go back to, and I have several Bibles today that I can go to and can find stuff. But another tool also is journaling. Yeah, having a journal that you write down where you can go, this is what the Lord has done. This is what I'm going through, and not just the good things. Write down, I'm struggling with this. Oh yeah, I'm struggling with it. Get those thoughts out and put that in paper on there. And like some people I think they're scared to do that because they're ashamed of somebody reading it. Well, they're going to see that I'm doubting. Have y'all read Psalm?
Right. You think David knew that we were going to be reading some of his innermost personal thoughts at certain times?
Exactly.
You think that these people knew that we would read some of the most embarrassing moments of their life? But
exactly.
How much good has that done? Just being able to see the way that God deals, not just in the blessing, but how does the Lord deal in the darkness?
Exactly.
That's super important.
So get those things together, guys, and walk those out. Create those, again, like Carl said, these stones of remembrance. Super helpful as you grow and learn and walk with the Lord to be able to go back to. All right, let's continue on. Verse 35.
35. And some of the bystanders, hearing it, said, "Behold, he is calling Elijah."
All right, that seems like a weird place to stop, but there's a reason.
Yeah.
The mocking of the people is interesting because it points to a cultural belief at the time. Elijah ascended to heaven without dying in 2 Kings chapter 2. It was a widespread belief that Elijah would return to rescue those suffering from great trouble. It was kind of a mythos that they had. Their mocking was suggesting that Jesus was attempting to get out of dying on the cross, basically. What they did not know was that as the Son of God, he could have done that. Yeah. Like, he had the ability to do that. He could have said, "I'm done. I'm tired of suffering for you people," and stepped off the cross. But instead, he stayed up there till the bitter end, out of obedience, trusting in God, going back to the garden, like you said, "Not my will, Lord, but yours be done."
It's one of those questions, what does victory look like?
Yeah.
But does victory look like getting what I want? Does victory look like the suffering ending? Or does victory look like being faithful to the plan of God? See, they don't understand that Jesus' victory wasn't him avoiding death.
Right.
Victory actually meant the Lamb of God going and paying for sin. That his blood was victory.
Exactly.
And I get that man wasn't going to understand that until much later. But from our armchair quarterback standpoint, that we kind of get to see the end from the beginning.
Right.
That is that picture. What does victory look like? In this case, victory looked like every drop of blood that needed to hit the ground.
Exactly.
And that Jesus died, and that penalty for our sin was paid in that moment.
Right. The theological term here is the propitiation of sin.
Propitiation.
Where Jesus takes the actual suffering for us, for our sin, and which is when you sit back and just thinking about that, like, it should humble us. Like, Jesus is up there on that cross for the stuff that I've done.
Oh, yeah. Stuff that I knew was wrong.
Right. And stuff that we did, and we hadn't even done it yet.
Yep.
Like, he's on that cross, and he sees us.
Yeah.
He sees you listening or watching. And he sees you today, he sees you tomorrow, he sees you yesterday. And all the mistakes in between. And yet he goes, "I'm going to do this for you."
Yeah. He's already made provision for it.
Yeah. Which is just mind-boggling. Let's keep tracking along, man. Verse 38. Oh, yeah, 36 through 37.
37. And someone ran to fill the sponge with sour wine and put it on the reed and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come and take him down." Verse 37. And Jesus uttered a loud cry and breathed his last.
Okay. So we know from John's gospel the sponge was offered because Jesus had said the words, "I thirst," beforehand. John and Luke tell us that this bit of moistness gave Jesus what he needed to voice his final words, which were, and I'm putting together the words from John and Luke, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. It is finished." This death is genuinely unusual in the sight of crucifixion as a norm. Men passed out and fell into deep comas before dying. Jesus maintained consciousness, maintained himself to the bitter end.
Not just consciousness, clarity.
Yeah.
Go to the other gospels, and he's talking to his disciples about the care of his mother.
Yeah, exactly. So he's doing all that. And then when he goes, and the thing is, like, he knew in that moment, it's done. I'm dying.
Yeah.
Like, normally when people die, like, there's not this, like, "Oh, I'm dying in 3, 2, 1.
The countdowns here, I see and it shows the suffering shows the humanity side. His awareness of life itself kind of reflects the divinity side.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm not gonna lie, guys, when I was studying this, this was hard reading, going through and just going, what's taking place here? Like, put yourself here in this place, guys. Like, He's been suffering for 6 hours, not including the beating.
Yeah, not including the beating.
Not including the anguish and the turmoil he had 6 hours beforehand in the garden.
Yeah.
Like, he's been in just gut-wrenching pain, mentally, physically, and emotionally.
The bleeding started in the garden.
Yeah. So for almost, just shy of 24 hours, basically. Yeah. And now it's done. Now he breathes his last breath. Verse 38, Carlos.
38. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. So
the curtain being torn is an interesting moment. Mark clearly marks this moment as supernatural and prophetic. And the curtain we're talking about, it takes place in the temple, and there are actually a series of curtains, but there's a curtain specifically that separates the people from the Holy of Holies. Yep. And only the high priest could go into this space to do the offerings unto the Lord. And this is such a holy place that if they were to not be prepared properly, they'd die. And so what you had happen is the high priest would have to wear literal bells around them, and they'd have a rope tied around their ankle when they go in there to do the offering. That way, if they died because they weren't prepared before God, pull the carcass out.
Drag that guy out of there. Exactly.
What is the supernatural significance of this moment, this curtain that separates man from God? This space where if you're not right with the Lord, you're killed automatically. What is the significance that that veil is torn?
Well, it's not just a curtain and that separation from man, the separation between man and God, but it's also the idea of the priest that goes in to make certain intercession.
Yeah.
Because now through Christ, he is now, you go read the book of Hebrews. First time I read the book of Hebrews, I didn't understand the Old Testament and I ran from it. Go read the book of Hebrews. Now Jesus Christ is that high priest,
right?
That intercession of him, what he did, him being the Lamb of God, his blood being sprinkled on the mercy seat.
Right.
Now that separation is gone, and now there is no need for intercession between us and the priest. Now the intercession is through Christ, and now we have direct access to the Father through Christ.
Right.
Now he's made a space. Now he's taken that the Bible even saw that wall of partition.
Right.
He's taken it, he's torn that down. Now there's access to the Father, to right standing with the Father through Jesus Christ.
Right.
His blood was sprinkled on that mercy seat, once and for all. And now he is that priest that goes and intercedes on behalf of the Father for us. Now the Bible says, he said himself that no man comes to the Father but by me. Now we go through Jesus, and now he is the way to the Father.
Right.
And that gives us spiritually direct access to the Father, not through man, but through God himself. Because Jesus is God.
Exactly.
So now through God, we have access to God.
Right.
That's a beautiful thought.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up the Hebrews, and I don't know, maybe we'll do a series going through Hebrews one day, but
that's going to get heavy.
It's going to be a heavy one, but and for those who go well, okay, why is there so much stuff about Old Testament there? I was talking to a guy who was a Messianic Jew. He was talking about how Hebrews really was written to Jewish people who were trying to understand their faith now through Christ. And he's pointing them all the way back to Jewish understandings and how the Messianic side of things now. And it's a fascinating read when you go through that direction. So, but yeah, there we go. Cool. So direct access to Jesus. That's what we have now. No longer do we have to go through blood of bulls and goats. No longer do we have to have a high priest doing anything. You don't need a person to talk to the Father.
Yeah.
You can do it yourself. Yeah. And I won't go there. I was going to go down the rabbit hole. Verse 39, Carlos.
Verse 39. And when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, truly, this man was the Son of God.
Right. This is an interesting moment.
That's fascinating.
And I get hyped when I read this, because here we see what many believe to be not just the first convert to Jesus after death, the first convert who was a Gentile.
Yeah.
The Roman soldier here likely sat at the foot of the cross for countless deaths. He was probably present for hundreds of crucifixions at this time frame. Yeah. He hurled up insults time after time. But being present for this, he was part of the group of guys who were casting lots for Jesus' clothing.
Yeah,
he was there, and he probably hurled up a few insults at this King of the Jews.
Yeah. depending on the time frame, he may have seen the lashings.
Exactly. But seeing the events taking place and also hearing the words of Jesus, which were recorded in Luke chapter 23, verse 34, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. This man was impacted greatly. Church history calls him Saint Longinus. And he was a soldier. He was a Greek soldier from modern-day Turkey who was impacted by this moment. Church history tells us that he became a monk and later was martyred for his belief. And this is fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I mean, before Cornelius, before Peter went to the house of the Gentiles, here is a Gentile soldier, and he is impacted by this moment. He's the most unlikely person in this moment to accept Christ, yet history shows us that he did and experienced Jesus in a real way. So a question for you. So a lot of people, we have people in our lives that the world would say they're unlikely to turn to Jesus. They're unlikely to experience God in a real way. And some of them, there are people in my life that are that way, and they'll say, if I walk into the halls of the church will fall down on top of me.
Yeah.
What advice can you give people who are praying for someone who may be an unlikely convert, just like this soldier?
You know what? As much as you love them, God loves them more.
Word.
And as much as you don't think that they are a likely convert, the Lord is thinking about them and knows what it takes for them to be impacted and for them to be saved. I mean, Jesus basically knew what this guy's shift was in order for him to be present, to see and to understand everything that happened in the crucifixion and to come to the conclusion that this guy's the Son of God.
Yeah.
I mean, he's thinking about this one guy. Oh, he's going to be on shift for crucifixion this day for these hours, and he's going to be right next to my cross, and he's going to stay here, and he's going to see the suffering. He's going to hear the words. He's going to hear me ask the Father to forgive the people who are mocking me and killing me, and he's going to see the sky get dark. He's going to see all of this, and he's going to see me stay cognizant and present after being through all of these things, and all of this stuff is going to converge in his mind to give him a revelation for the Father that this is the Son of God.
Exactly.
You know, and God and Jesus know if he would go through that for this one person, how much more would he go through for the one that you love?
Exactly.
If he would go through it for me,
Word.
I mean, we could sit there and we could talk for a long time about what the Lord had to go through for me to come to the Calvary's cross. That he's not a respecter of person. He's not worried about how unlikely the world thinks someone is,
right?
Or how unlikely you think it is this person will hear the gospel and be saved,
right? He
cares about the person in their soul, and he's going to give every ample opportunity. He will create things and create scenarios and opportunities for them to know him and to be submitted to him and to accept.
Exactly.
Just know God is faithful in that.
Right. So good. So good. We want to do me a favor. If you guys are praying for somebody, email us, mediahub@thbc.org. We would love to be praying with you for those people. I want to add this one last thing because this wasn't in my notes, but just reflecting on this moment, guys. This is a dark, dark moment, terrifying, disgusting moment. Yet even in this moment, a man got saved.
Yeah.
In the darkest moment of history, a man, seconds after Jesus dies, says, this was the Son of God.
Him.
This is the guy. Like, this is transformative, guys. And I want to encourage, whatever dark moment you're in, whatever you've been going through, there can be hope that comes out of it. This is what we're talking about a few weeks ago when we're talking about how God turns all things to good. It may not be the way we wanted to do it.
Yeah.
All right. But he will redeem the moment. And if you're going through a dark time and you pray, let us know. We want to pray with you.
Yeah. The ministry of the Lord never stops.
Word. All right, let's bring this to a close. Verse 40 and 41, Carlos.
Also, there were also women looking on from the distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and James the younger, and Joseph and Salome. And when he was in Galilee, they followed him and ministered to him. And there were also many other women who came up with him to Jerusalem.
Okay, so Mark goes out of his way to mention three specific women at Jesus' death. Mary Magdalene, another woman named Mary, not to be confused with Jesus' mother Mary, and a woman named Salome. These three women were known to be faithful followers of Jesus, always to the end. In fact, we're going to see some of them next week's episode. Why is it such a big deal that Mark went out of his way to mention these three ladies?
Well, it establishes in the ancient world the role of women when it comes to spiritual things, or when it comes to the things as far as God's plan is very, very different. And this establishes a weight of women that follow Jesus and follow Jesus faithfully.
Yeah.
And he wanted to make sure that people understood that. Just think about the impact. Think about, let's go to the book of Acts, and now there are people waiting on Jesus and the promise of the Father. You know, how many women would have been there that understood that, hey, Jesus included, you know, faithful women that were discipled and that followed the Lord and followed the Lord with a whole heart, was even there to his dying breath.
Yeah.
How much does that encourage, you know, other women to be present for what God has for their life as well? Because Mark was able to include them in this account so that other believers, because, you know, this was written to Jewish believers, other believers would see this and understood, hey, there were ladies there too that were a part of, and they weren't just there for the spectacle. They had been a part of Jesus' ministry for quite some time.
Exactly.
You know, in that they were there all the way to the end with the Lord. And that's super encouraging to the other ladies that are a part of us, who are reading this and potentially going through some serious persecution.
Exactly. Another interesting aspect of this is the fact that these three women are there, and Mark doesn't record any other disciples. John records that he was there for the crucifixion and death of Jesus, but the rest of the 11 that were left over, those 10 guys, they were in the wind. Yeah. They have scattered and run away. Only John and these three women are the known disciples who are present for this moment. And next week, we're going to talk about his burial, how they were there for that too. So, guys, reach out to us, mediahub@thbstreetport.com. If we encourage you, pray with you. If you got questions about anything, let us know. And don't forget, again, we're part of the Healing Place, which is a real-life church at 8957 Kingston Road, Shreveport, Louisiana.
A good church.
And if you are free on Wednesday night, we can meet at 6:30. If you're free on Sunday mornings, come hang out. Start at 10 o'clock every Sunday. Until next time, have a great week.